It's Tehachapod time. Maya Acosta, joined by Cora Costello, and we have a special guest in the studio with us, Nick Cullen, Director of Kern County Animal Services. Thanks for joining both of us.
Thank you for having me.
And Nick's back a couple, 3 times now. And no pressure, but the last time he was on, we actually won an award for the episode. So, Maya, no pressure.
No pressure, not at all.
Last time it was award winning. We got to make sure we, double that up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This was before my time. So now I'm taking the torch from Key.
Serious proving ground time.
Yeah, apparently. Well, I'm excited. We're going to talk about all things animal services and what sort of resources there are here in the county and here in Tehachapi. So, of course, in the name, Kern County Animal Services, you don't do work solely in Bakersfield, but it extends throughout the county. So kind of at a base level, tell us a little bit about what you guys do through KCAS and the resources you offer.
Whoa, boy, you got a couple hours. Yeah, so we're the county's animal services agency. So we not only offer sheltering services for the entire unincorporated county jurisdictions, along with a couple of incorporated municipalities like Tehachapi. So sheltering services just means we operate animal shelters that receive stray pets and place those stray pets up for adoption. But we also have our field service wing that enforces humane laws, protects the public from vicious and aggressive domesticated animals, quarantines pets that have bitten another human being. We have 12 animal control officers that are responsible for responding to calls throughout the county. We do have one animal control officer that's assigned to the East Kern, and they spend a significant amount of their time in the Tehachapi area. But they also cover Rosamond and Mojave as well. So we have a whole host of services that we offer. Right now, what we're really big about is spay and neuter, especially with this large of a county. It's 8,000 square miles, over 8,000 square miles, and I mean, I know the population is radically different, but LA County is 4,000, half that. So we have twice the amount of area to cover and twice the amount of area to get resources out to. So it makes it challenging sometimes, and especially when you're talking about something that's very stationary in and of itself, which is surgery on animals. So finding a mobile solution to bring to communities like Tehachapi is challenging. But spay and neuter is a really big part of what we're doing right now, and part of the primary reason is just because we're just seeing this drastic, significant increase in the amount of dogs that are not only coming into our facility, but that are in our community, many times unkept and uncared for. So that spay and neuter is a big part of what we're doing right now and trying to provide those resources all throughout the county. We offer vaccination services. We do vaccine clinics all throughout the county, Tehachapi included. We just wrapped up our vaccine clinic just recently in Tehachapi. I think we had it at Meadowbrook Park. And that's just an opportunity for folks to get their rabies vaccination, which is legally required. Mm-hmm. But it's also an opportunity to get their pets vaccinated for common core illnesses like parvo and distemper. And we don't charge for that either. So thanks to a generous grant from the Petco Love Foundation, we provide those vaccines for free. So, and then beyond that, we of course have animals that are available for adoption. That it's a bit of a drive for Tehachapi residents to go into the Bakersfield Animal Shelter to adopt a pet, but we believe that with the amount of animals that are in our county shelters right now, and the amount of animals that are in need of a home, I think it's justifiable for communities all throughout Kern County to, if they make that decision to welcome a new pet into their home, that they make that decision to adopt a pet, especially from an animal shelter. So, I'm sure I'm leaving out a whole lot of services that we provide, but I'm happy to expand on any one of those or get into any of the areas that we want to touch on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so here in Tehachapi, I know we have Stop, Save Tehachapi's Orphaned Pets. I'm not sure if they're kind of privately owned or how they operate, but we also have a Heart Humane Society. Do you work with either of those shelters to either help move, animals around or exchange services? How does that work?
Yeah, so I have said this before, and maybe I mentioned this last time, but there is no community in this county that's lucky enough to have so many nonprofits, animal welfare nonprofits that are right in that community. Nobody quite like Tehachapi. There are a number of nonprofits and animal welfare organizations right here in Tehachapi, Have a Heart being one of them. I personally have had a relationship with Have a Heart for quite a long time. I have been with the County of Kern, the Animal Services Department, for 20 years. And so I have worked with Have a Heart and the founder, Shelley Kitzmiller, who has passed away a couple years back. But she was just a great individual to work with. She had a passion for animals. She didn't let anything stand in her way of making a difference in animals' lives, especially in Tehachapi. And so I do take that seriously, that relationship that we have with Have a Heart. And we try to offer as much support to Have a Heart and the other nonprofits here in Tehachapi that we possibly can. I know Have a Heart still rescues and adopts and saves animals from our county animal shelters. And, we try to keep an open door so that if they reach out to us and say, hey, we can use some help, we have animals that we need help finding placement for, or we can really use, some assistance with spay, neuter, or vaccines. We do our best to accommodate those requests when we do. But they're a wonderful organization. They do a lot of good things. And unfortunately, I don't want to lead the other organizations out because there's quite a few. You said Stop, and Marley's Mutts is up in the area.
Right, yeah.
A lot of good organizations that are doing just wonderful work up here in Tehachapi. And makes my job easier.
And you've brought, you have the mobile spay neuter as well.
Yes, sir.
And I know you brought that a few times to Have a Heart for that kind of thing, to, like you said, to sort of bridge that gap of driving for that surgery, so to speak.
Yeah, that's not us. So there's a nonprofit. It's called the SNP Bus, SNIP.
Gotcha. Yeah.
It stands for Spay Neuter Imperative Project, SNIP.
Gotcha.
Anyway, they're a nonprofit, and they're just a group of veterinarians, veterinary technicians, and vet assistants that have traveling coaches and trucks, and they drive out, and wherever we tell them to go, or anybody else who pays them tells them to go, they come out and they set up and they do surgeries, and they do that on our behalf.
Yeah.
And so if you see a spay neuter clinic here in Tehachapi, it's probably going to be the SNP bus, but it's going to be either supported or paid for by the county, or it might be just funded by a private nonprofit, kind of like Marley's Mutts or Have a Heart.
Yeah, I know at one point I think we did a donation to Have a Heart to get the SNP bus up at one point, just to kind of get the ball rolling, and then as they were establishing their new location and all that stuff on Tehachapi Boulevard. So, but they will do their own fundraisers in order to get the SNP bus to come up and stuff like that. So, yeah, and there's a lot of work that they're doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, like I said, wonderful organization. The fact that they've been around as long as they have, and they do. And I know it's tough work for them, just like it is for us, because they set up a rescue, and they get a lot of animals that are delivered right to their facility. And just anybody who's in the business of animal welfare, my hat's off to them. It's not an easy business to be in right now, with as many animals that are on our streets, and Have a Heart's one of those ones that's in it for the right reasons and still doing it.
Yeah, I think you brought up earlier when you were talking about the size of the county, obviously being one challenge, but with so much of the county being rural, that's especially desert communities, even here in Tehachapi, with the highway going through, like you get animal dumping a lot, and people just let them go. And, sometimes they end up at a place where someone can hold on to them, and sometimes they have to go to the shelter. But it seems like the rural nature sometimes of the county can lead to more of that sort of animal dumping and, that sort of thing.
It's incredibly challenging because if you think about it, we run into this problem right now in even further parts of eastern Kern County, like Boron and Edwards and Roseman and Mojave. If you live in Boron, your nearest vet might be 2 hours away.
Yeah.
And so a lot of our vets, veterinarians in Kern County, a lot of them aren't taking new clients. A lot of them aren't a 24-hour operation. And so if your animal gets injured at 10 o'clock at night and you live in an outlying community, where do you go? And let alone how do you afford it? If you're trying to make ends meet and you live in a rural community in the outlying areas of Kern County, that's what keeps me up at night sometimes, is worrying about how those folks are providing for their animals. And I don't think it's an accident that, we start to see an increase in the amount of those animals that are potentially abandoned when folks can't get access to veterinary care. They can't afford it to begin with, and then they can't even get it.
Yeah, it's very tough up here. I know we have a couple, but they're busy. They're booked up.
Tehachapi Vet is a very busy veterinary
and
outfit.
so some folks, they just make the drive to Bakersfield just because there are more options, down there for regular checkups, even some emergency services. But yeah, it's a challenge because I've experienced it firsthand. There's just not enough veterinarians in the area, and probably even county-wide to provide that care for pets.
Certainly. I have a 15-year-old Maltese mix that I adopted from the shelter. Her name is Emma, and I adopted her in 2011, and this is 2025. So that was 14 years ago, and she was about a year or two when I got her. And, she's entering her twilight years, and, it had been a bit since I visited. I took her to the vet, and I needed to have her teeth checked, and I was told we're not seeing any clients right now by the vet that I had taken her to, and it was difficult for me to even get an appointment to have my senior dog just seen.
Yeah.
And if it's difficult for me, it must be difficult for especially folks living in the remote areas of the county. And like I said, it keeps me up at night wondering what folks do if their animal gets sick or injured and they have nowhere to take it.
Yeah.
And there's so many. That's the thing, too, especially here in Tehachapi. There's so many people that have such big hearts and are so caring towards the animals, but they don't necessarily have the resources to go out and care for all of these animals. I've got several neighbors that get up every morning and go feed the stray cats, whether that be...
Please don't do that.
I know, adding to the issue or not, debatable. But for those folks who, want to help, maybe know that they don't have the means to adopt a pet right now, what are some of the channels that they can go about supporting, the stray and sheltered animals here throughout the county?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different ways that people can plug in and help out. Especially in the Tehachapi community, the thing that we have going for us in Tehachapi is that there are so many nonprofits that are working with animals. And I will tell you that if you're interested in trying to help out, but maybe you can't take on a dog, all those organizations probably need volunteer help. I'm not speaking for all of them, but I know that we can always use volunteers, and I'm sure they can too. Researching some of those organizations, seeing if they have a website or some sort of email, and find out how to volunteer for those organizations. Another wonderful way that people can really help out, I know that we benefit from this greatly. We last year in 2024, we took in just shy of 10,000 dogs.
Wow.
And I know that number may seem very high, but with no context, that's the most dogs we've taken in about 15 years. And that's a crisis. But the biggest thing that we're grateful for is that we have a social media following where we post those animals, especially the ones that are most in jeopardy of not making it out of the shelter. We post those animals on our social media, and one of the things that folks can do that's really easy is to follow the organizations that are saving these animals and share those posts about those animals that need homes. We put on spay and neuter clinics all throughout the county. The nonprofits here locally put on spay and neuter clinics. Finding those organizations on social media and sharing those posts to increase the amount of eyeballs that see them and engagement that we get from the community. Those are a couple of real simple ways that you can help out. We have some resources on our website that are available to all county residents and Tehachapi residents as well. You can go to kerncountyanimalservices.org. There's a link that says right on the homepage, Pet Resources. You can click on that, and you'll have a list of all of our spay and neuter, all of our vaccine resources. And we also have a new program. It's called the Emergency Veterinary Care Voucher Program. So if you have an animal that has an emergency, something that's life-threatening, and you go to seek veterinary care and the bill is just enormous. We can't cover the whole bill for you, but we have a program that may be able to help. So you fill out an application, you tell us the circumstance, And within 3 to 7 days, I think we're telling folks we'll get back to you and let you know if we can help, and if so, how much. So it's just a resource that we're trying to make available because we know people are struggling. But sharing that type of information with your neighbors, with your friends, with your family members, I think those are some of the biggest things you could do aside from friend or friending or following or whatever the social media phrase is. Some of the organizations that are doing that work, ours included.
And I think you can take it a step further. I know there are nonprofits specifically in the Bakersfield area, but they encourage fostering. Mm-hmm. They get them from your shelter, so they're not euthanized, and then they post them to social media and say, "Hey, this dog needs a foster home," and then they work in the background on finding someone to adopt that pet while you're holding on to it. So maybe, I'm not ready for a full-time dog commitment, but I might be able to foster this animal for a couple of weeks while that way it's out of your shelter. So there's several organizations that do that. That's kind of like a way to at least buy a little more time until they can go find someone to adopt that.
Not only that, but I know a foster is a big part of what we do. It's we send thousands of animals to foster every year, and not only does it save that animal's life, absolutely 100%, but it also gives that animal a chance to decompress out of the shelter environment, and it gives them the ability to express normal behavior. Mm-hmm. And when an animal is able to express normal behavior and someone's there to witness it, and they can communicate that back to us and tell us, hey, this dog likes chew toys or likes rawhides or doesn't like those things or reacted unfavorably to cats, or giving us that information, or giving any organization who you're going to foster on behalf of, giving that information on that specific animal is invaluable. So yes, absolutely, you're right. Offering to foster, not only for our organization, but for some of the other organizations that are doing great work here, is a big help.
And I can't stress enough. I mean, I've adopted 2 dogs from your shelter, and I'm just. Shelter dogs are the best. Like, I keep trying to tell people that because they have this new lease on life, and I always joke about, they got out of incarceration and now they're making the best out of their second chance. My 2 shelter dogs were amazing. They just have such an appreciation and just so happy that they're out, and you can definitely tell it in their mannerisms and their behavior just because of what they went through. So it's great. I mean, it really is. It's a fantastic way to do it, as opposed to buying new, puppy mill, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's fantastic. The shelter's a great way, and I mean, the wonderful animals there.
Yeah, I might be a little showing some favoritism here, but shelter dogs are the best, man. Yeah. I've never adopted a dog from a breeder, and I know I'm not going to speak badly about breeders. They, reputable breeders, they do a really good job of keeping breeds together, and but shelter dogs are my favorite, and I think there is some truth that if you adopt a shelter dog, somewhere inside of that dog's emotional, maybe personality, knows that you probably saved its life. That's what I want to believe in. That could be me imputing human emotions on the dog, but I swear that sometimes they appreciate life a little bit more when you adopt them from the shelter. But beyond that, I think there's still some notion that, if an animal is coming out of an animal shelter, that there's something wrong with it, that it's damaged, that it's aggressive, that it's mean, and that is just not true. Right. I mean, we have a shelter full, we have, no joke, probably about 375 dogs in our care right now, and I would be willing to bet about 95% of them are perfectly well balanced, well-adjusted behavior dogs that are going to just make great family pets. Mm-hmm. And so we always try to dispel that myth that shelter dogs are damaged for some reason, and they're not. And I will say to our listeners, it's a bit of a drive to go into Bakersfield if you're going to adopt a pet from the Kern County Animal Shelter. However, every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we have a team of animal care folks from County Animal Services that drive out all throughout the county and bring adoptable pets to communities. Mm. We're usually in Tehachapi about once or twice a month. I'm trying to remember. I believe we're at Tractor Supply.
Okay.
And then we're at there's a pet store here, and I can't remember the name of it.
Canine Creek.
Canine Creek. Mm-hmm. We're at Canine Creek as well. So if you're intent on adopting a pet and maybe you don't want to drive the 40 miles or so, follow us on social media. We're on all of the channels. Like I said, I'm not a social media guy, but there's Facebook, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's X, YouTube, you name it. We have a following and a page on there. follow us on those social media pages so you can tell where we're going to be at. Because every Friday and Saturday and Sunday, we're out in the community. And about twice a month, we're here in Tehachapi with adoptable pets. So, yeah, it's an opportunity to take advantage of those benefits that a shelter pet
I'll find out what
brings
days
to your
those
life.
are, so I avoid those places those days. So my kids don't beg me for a dog right now. We're in a transition process and moving, but soon they're bugging us. They're 8 and 6 now. And they're like, when can we get a dog again? After we had to put our last one down. But I remember when we went to the shelter to get our last dog, and we're just going to look, quote unquote, right? I was going to go look. The one we had passed away, and we wanted a dog again. And we had this beautiful husky was there, and we take her out of the pen. We go into the yard, and she just walks over to my wife and lays down and puts her head on pretty much her chest. And I was like, "Go ahead, wrap up the paperwork on this one. We're out of here. This is all we need." It was like that dog was selling herself. She knew exactly what she was doing.
Yeah, I would say,
and it worked.
Oh, I would be lying if I said that when we talk about foster. We know that especially if you've never fostered a dog before, we know, we're not going to tell you, but we know you're probably going to end up keeping that dog. We call it foster failure,
right.
And we pretty much count on that. But we don't say anything. You want to foster a dog? Sure. You can just keep it for a day or 2 or 3, and then they're probably going to adopt that dog.
Which is great. It's a great, it's, you're kind of feeling out period too. Like if you decide to foster and you're like, oh, I really like this dog. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's perfect.
Yeah, we have another really cool program, which we know most of our programs are just a sly way of getting you to probably adopt a dog. We have a program called Streets of Bakersfield. And all it is folks will come down on a Saturday. We do it every other Saturday. We just did it last Saturday, so we won't have one for not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. And Streets of Bakersfield is a doggy day out program. That's all it is. You come down, fill out a quick application on a Saturday morning, and we're going to hand you a dog that we selected. So it's vaccinated, microchipped, and gets along well with people and other dogs. And these folks, they take about 30 or 35 dogs, and they go out in the community and they spend the day with them, and they take them to the park or they take them to groomers. And what they do is they market those animals individually. These are just members of our community, and they market those animals individually to their own friends and family and social media pages in a way that we could never do.
Yeah.
And so those folks are just taking a dog for one day, and we've expanded that program to Streets of Bakersfield sleepovers, so that if you want, you can keep the dog for a couple of days and bring it back on Monday. And each time we do that, we're like, they're probably going to keep that dog.
That's awesome. I have an old coworker that would do the Streets of Bakersfield program every time it happened, and he prided himself that every dog he took out and marketed, they ended up getting adopted, several days after. So it's a really great program. And again, even less of a commitment than fostering. You can just part-time foster a dog for a day. That's a cool program.
Yeah, your only requirement is when you come back, we ask you to fill out a report card. It's a little report card that we have you fill out, and it's just got some basic information about what you guys did and kind of the characteristics that you observed in the animal, because that it seems kind of cute, and it is, and maybe it doesn't seem like much to you, but it means a lot to us to gather that information about that animal that there was no way for us to get while it's in the shelter environment. So it's a wonderful program to take advantage of if you can.
Very cool. I noticed that this is done a bit in the kind of bigger markets, but I know Petco down in San Diego, they do their Bark in the Park every Sunday, like the Padres games, and they bring out with San Diego County and Petco partner up, and they bring a lot of these adoptable animals out to the ballpark, and they parade them on the field, and then they allow people to check them out. So I mean, that might be something too, with whether the train robbers in Bakersfield or something like that. Cal State, I don't know, anywhere you can take some dogs on a Sunday and get them out into the sunshine and get some sports fans there to adopt.
I would say anybody listening to the podcast. If you own a business and you're here in Tehachapi and you think you have a venue that we can come out to on a weekend and bring some adoptable pets, we're happy to do it. And we're always looking for new community partners to bring adoptable pets on throughout the county of Kern. Tehachapi is a great place to bring adoptable pets to. So if we have listeners who are like, I own a business and I think we can accommodate that, reach out to us, email us at animalservices@kerncounty.com and let us know, hey, we have a business or a piece of property that we think we'd like to host an adoption event at, and we can work on you to get that out there.
Yeah, very cool.
Sweet. So you were saying So I'm going back. I used to work in Bakersfield TV news, and it was just regularly we're covering stories about how, the shelters are overcrowded and tons of dogs and pets are at risk of euthanization. What's kind of the state of things now? I know you said that you saw over 10,000 dogs being taken in last year. What are things looking like right now?
So I think, like I touched on before, Maya, the amount of animals that are coming into our facility is crisis levels. If anybody has followed sort of the animal welfare saga in Kern County for the past 20 or 25 years, it reached its peak difficulties in 2011, 2012, 2013, where the county shelter was receiving 32,000 dogs and cats a year. Wow. And we were putting down close to 75% of those. I mean, county was responsible for euthanizing 22,000 dogs and cats a year. And we've made a lot of progress since then. The pandemic really, it's not just us, it's really the entire state of California, the entire nation in some ways has kind of pushed animal welfare back, has set this crisis in animal shelters on its way. And so, we're still challenged by that. We're still pushing spay neuter, but those numbers of dogs are still increasing. Since 2020, we've seen, a 75% increase in the amount of dogs coming to us. And that's untenable. That's not something that we can continue to manage year after year. But right now, the month of January, we took in close to 1,000 dogs. We took in close to 700 cats. And our staff worked together with community partners and adopters to save about 87% of those animals. That's just January. That's not a full year. But our staff is working really hard to avoid having to put those animals down. It still happens. Absolutely. We run out of space. And that's really what it's about. I know folks sometimes don't understand. I prior to me coming into work with the county and animal services, I didn't have any sense of what an animal shelter did or how animals ended up there. It just always occurred to me, like, if you don't have space, then stop taking animals, and you shouldn't have to put anything down. But come to find out after working for the county for a few years, that's not the case. Animal shelters like ours are required by law to take stray dogs. We are primarily rabies control facilities. And so, those rabies control laws were set up in the state of California 125 years ago. Mm-hmm. And so some of our listeners may remember the old term pound. Well, the pound system was something that was developed in the early 20th century, and it was intended to capture and keep dogs to prevent the spread of rabies. And so that, in some form, although it's changed a lot, the role of animal shelters in some form is still in existence, in that we are required to take dogs. So when you're required to take dogs from the community, you can't say no, and you have a finite amount of space. That makes it incredibly challenging to make room for the animals that are coming in tomorrow if you can't find placement for the ones that you have now fast enough. So that's the crisis that we're in right now. Like I said, since January 1st, we're saving about 85% of all the animals that come to us. And it's tough right now with the state of animal welfare to really predict what this year has in store for us, because each year, as we get further and further out from the pandemic, all of us are just kind of hoping and praying, like all of the spay-neuter work, all of the nonprofits like the ones here in Tehachapi are doing such good work to promote responsible pet ownership, to deliver resources to our community, that we hope that that's going to start paying off, and we start looking at statistics and data, and when are we seeing trends that are going back in the other direction. And we're just all hopeful that if we keep working at this and we keep saving as many animals as we can, that we'll see a decrease in the amount of animals coming into all of our shelters. And, at that point, we can start looking at different types of systems and programs to maybe help pet owners take better care of their animals.
Well, that's also the bonus too. Back to adopting from the shelter, like you said, they're vaccinated, spay neutered, chipped when they leave. You don't have to go get all that done. When you adopt, that's comes part of the package.
Yeah, it's like buying a house that's furnished already.
Yeah,
it's like we fix the dog for you or the cat. like you said, fully vaccinated for common core illnesses. That's got a microchip on board. If you're a county resident or a Tehachapi city resident, it's going to come with a license that you're required to have anyway. It's going to come with a rabies vaccination. It's dewormed. It's everything you need. We even give you a collar and a leash most of the time.
Yeah.
It comes with everything you need to be a responsible pet owner. And you know, it comes with something that's kind of invaluable, which is like the knowledge that you probably saved that animal's life. There's a good chance that you saved that animal's life. And I don't know about you, but I believe in karma. And I think sometimes saving an animal's life pays dividends in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like it. Can we talk a little bit about, I mean, obviously we look at, you know, what we're calling this crisis of stray animals and overpopulated shelters. And a big cause for this is a lack of education. What are some of the, means that the Kern County Animal Services goes about to educate folks about just the basic necessities of, like you said, being a responsible pet owner?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that is, anytime we have an opportunity, we probably do about 15 or 20 assemblies every year at some of the schools throughout Kern County, where we have an animal control officer and an animal care worker come and talk about what life is like in an animal shelter and the importance of, not in a wet blanket type of way, but what it means to be a responsible pet owner, what vaccinating your pet and providing veterinary care for your animal, and if you're trying to communicate that owning a dog comes with responsibilities, owning a cat comes with responsibilities, and here's what those things are. And so it's taking advantage of those opportunities when they come up to us, but it's also working with community partners to help support them continue the path of education and educating our community. Organizations like the wonderful ones here that are doing great work. We also are our offsite team, our team of personnel, like I said, that comes out to remote areas in the county and brings adoptable pets. They're also bringing a lot of literature on what it means to be a responsible pet owner. So they're giving out spay-neuter literature. They're giving out vaccination schedules. They're letting the people know that maybe can't adopt a pet. Hey, we're going to be up here, next month with a spay-neuter bus. Here's how to make an appointment. So, and that's another benefit of sending some of our staff out to these communities, because a lot of folks aren't on social media, or if they are on social media, they have a completely different feed than we do. And they might not see those resources that are available and not see what the right thing to do by their pet is. So I think by our staff putting a face to the name of Animal Services at some of these remote areas, especially some of the ones that don't have access to like a veterinarian or something like that. That's really important. That's why we're going to keep doing that.
And just watch one video and the algorithm will catch up and you'll get all kinds of videos.
Even if you don't want it, it'll catch
just
up.
Watch one and then your algorithm will be reset.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, so part of Animal Services it involves animal control. And that may be like a term that people might cringe at or think is bad and negative. Can you talk a little bit about how Kern County Animal Services works with, like, Tehachapi Police Department, for example, or other municipalities and law enforcement to ensure pet safety, resident safety, and what does animal control do, really?
Yeah, that's a good question, Maya. And I actually do have an answer. So, I mean, assisting law enforcement like the Tehachapi PD, assisting law enforcement like the Kern County Sheriff's Department, it's actually a relatively small part of what our animal control officers do. Anytime a law enforcement agency calls us, we try to make it a priority to get out there and assist. Most of the time, if law enforcement is calling our animal control officers to assist, it's usually because either somebody's being taken into custody and they have a pet that we need to take on, or it's a property that they need to gain access to that has a potentially mean animal that our officers will secure. Or sometimes it's an aggressive dog that's running loose and law enforcement's been called out to protect the community. So we always try to prioritize those calls, but a lot of our animal control officers are responding to calls for service that are made by the community. And so those are people that are calling Animal Services and saying, hey, my neighbor's dog is loose, or my neighbor's not caring for his dog properly, or there's a loose dog at the intersection of this street and that street. Or asking questions like, hey, my dog is missing, what do I do? And our officers will go out and assist in any way that they possibly can. A big part of what our officers do, like I said, is attempt to protect the community from those mean and vicious dogs. So that's high up on our priorities when we get a call for a vicious animal. But our officers are almost all day responding to calls from the community. They spend a lot of their time nowadays bringing in stray animals that the community notifies us about. About 50 to 60%, probably closer to 60% of the animals that come into the shelter come in from an animal control officer.
Oh, okay.
So they're very busy. You can imagine we have 12 animal control officers, and they have 8,200 square miles to patrol. Some of those areas are 2 hours from each call. So they do their best to get to those areas as soon as they can.
Do you have to do the non-domesticated animal calls too as well?
So that depends. I started my career as an animal control officer, and kind of the approach we take and what I tell my officers is assess the situation. We get calls for wildlife sometimes. We get calls for reptiles, snakes, and stuff like that. And a lot of times the agencies that are supposed to handle those, that are tasked with handling those, they're not anywhere close by.
Yeah.
And so we'll usually dispatch an officer out just to assess the situation, see if it's something that we can assist with. Maybe we can mitigate, maybe we can abate the situation. And even if it's not something that our staff is equipped to deal with or trained to deal with, well, then we can keep an eye on the situation until an agency gets there that will.
Yeah.
So we do respond to those calls. Occasionally we do not, depending on what it is. I can very specifically remember a couple of calls for bears that I responded to when I was an officer. I remember a couple of calls that my officers responded to for bears, and it's always just in a support capacity, just to help out the agency. I tell my officers, don't get near that bear.
Yeah, exactly.
Just keep eyes on it.
Wait for the guys with the trank gun to be there. Yeah. In our, sometimes too, like our, with microchipping of pets, and it's kind of a funny deal, but people sometimes bring them because the police department has a reader, microchip reader to see. And so sometimes someone might find a dog and they'll bring it to TPD, and then we scan it. Okay. And then they'll usually be able to get a hold of the owner. But in the meantime, the dog gets put in the jail cell, basically the holding cell. And I think that, and so it's funny sometimes, chief will walk by, he's like, what's this dog doing here? Oh, we had to call so-and-so, they're on their way. Someone dropped it off, it got out of the yard and stuff like that. So, it's kind of a team effort sometimes.
Yeah. And I give all the credit to Tehachapi for doing that. They obviously we provide sheltering services for the city of Tehachapi, but I just love that they are willing and able to, catch a dog that probably belongs to somebody, go the extra mile of scanning it, find a microchip, call the person, say, hey, come and get your dog, and even have an area to put it to, just for temporarily.
Because if not, it's got to go to you in Bakersfield,
That's right.
and they got to get it, and it's a pain for everybody.
Such an awesome service that you guys afford to the citizens here.
Yeah, no, and every once in a while they'll be running, the dog will be running around, and they'll just open the door in the back of the cruiser, the dog will hop in, and then they'll go back to the station with it, and find out who owns it. So if the collar is not on or something like that. So yeah, I mean it's not a huge problem really in the city. I think a lot of the more surrounding rural areas have more of an issue with that, but it's every once in a while lend a helping hand. That way people don't have to go to Bakersfield to claim, the dog who got out. And like I said before, I had a husky, they're escape artists. That dang thing was, no matter how high the fence was or how great, if she wanted to be out that day, she was going to be out that day. Luckily she had a tag and a phone number, and, and she was very people friendly. So the first person she usually saw, she ran to, and then they called me and we were able to pick her up. But, it happens from time to time.
Yeah, that's a good service you guys offer, because like you said, I mean, it's a bit of a drive into Bakersfield, and who knows, it might be a day that we're closed or not open. Maybe we're closed the next day, and to be able to just drive down to the city hall or the police station and pick up your dog, it's an awesome thing you guys do.
And we're small enough too where, we see it on social media. Somebody finds a dog, doesn't have a collar, whatever, collar fell off, no tags. There's people take photos. I found this dog here. I would say 90% of the time the owner is found, or their friend goes, oh, I know, I think that's so-and-so's dog. And then they end up, so it's small enough. I know if you did it in Bakersfield, it's harder because it's so dense, but at least here in this community, like people are able to post to social media and pet groups and that sort of thing, and usually find, the owner go right away, as opposed to calling you all, to hold it. And then that takes a little bit longer to recover. So.
Yeah, I feel like that's like every other post I see on Facebook anyway.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Whose dog?
Whose dog? Found this dog. We have the regular ones that sometimes run around downtown, but we know they belong to somebody.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that dog's gonna be back in the house in a minute. Just little Chihuahua runs around for a while. Like, oh, I know whose dog that is. Don't worry, it'll be fine. It's going back to the home. But yeah, being small enough allows us to sometimes capture those things ahead of time.
Mm-hmm. And now, okay, so. We know, I think most Tehachapi people that live in city limits know that we've got quite the stray cat population. Can we talk a little bit about trap and release? How does that process work? Kern County Animal Services play any role into that? What is it all about?
So we have a program. It's free to Tehachapi residents. The problem with the program is there's only one provider, and it's a spay neuter clinic in Bakersfield. So the program just basically provides for the spay neuter of those feral cats. It just requires you to deliver them for surgery, pick them up for surgery, and release them to where they came from. It costs us quite a bit of money to stand up that program, and we probably provide for the sterilization of about 2,500 cats a year through that program. Wow. And so, I mean, that program is always offered to the community. It's offered through a nonprofit called Critters Without Litters in Bakersfield. I think it's critterswolitters.org. Critterswolitters.org. And they have a lot of good information on their website about making an appointment to bring in a feral cat that you may have trapped or found. But fixing those cats is usually the most humane solution. It's just when that population gets out of control that it's a little unwieldy to try to get a handle on the situation. There are some really good organizations here locally. There's a gal that I know, and she operates an organization called Fixin' Feral Felines. She lives here in Tehachapi. Yep. And boy, her name is Gina. I hope she doesn't mind me saying her name. And she just does such great work, and that's what she does. She traps feral cats, and she provides transports them to get them fixed, and picks them up and brings back and lets them go. And I think she said she's done about 3,000 cats in the city of Tehachapi since she's been doing it. And that's what I mean when I say this is such a unique community, and that they're so compassionate for animals. That I think if every other community was like Tehachapi, it would probably I'd be out of a job probably.
Well, we've had this conversation in the past with you as well. I mean, there are, for kind of stray and or feral cats, there are, once they're fixed, there's a great use for a lot of them. I mean, folks up here who have horse property, barns. I mean, I know there's barn cat programs where you can, put this cat out there, and you're obviously going to give it some food, but it's also going to do some rodent control for you and things like that. I mean, there are some uses for even if you don't want a pet, but maybe you have land or a barn, and that's not a bad way to keep some of the rodents down.
Yeah, we a couple of years ago we started we call it a working cat program,
there you go.
Or a barn cat program, and this is 6 or 7 years ago we started that program. And I tell you, the look that we got from some people, what is a working cat? What is a barn cat? And but 6 or 7 years later, it's a successful program where folks that own large, like you said, folks that own large industrial properties, farms, it is a organic, natural rodent control, and it works, and it's free. So we offer the program for free. You can email us at animalservices@kerncounty.com. You can check on our website, and there's more information on the Barn Cat program. It's called the Barn Cat program, and for no cost to you, you can get a barn cat. They're usually, so the way we kind of define a barn cat is it's a cat that's unhandleable. It's a feral cat. It's not socialized with people.
It's not going to sit on your lap and purr.
No, I mean, God forbid you have it sit on your lap. These cats probably wouldn't react too well. But they serve a purpose, and that purpose is to control the rodent population at a facility. And so we give those cats for free. The only obligation that you have is to put out food and water. And those essentially are your animals, your cats, to make sure you keep an eye on, And we usually recommend that if you get a barn cat and you put it on your property, you keep it in a smaller enclosed area for about 2 weeks. Give it food and water, because that'll kind of imprint on the animal. Like, this is my home. This is where I stay. And we've gotten some wonderful feedback from the community, from people that are participating in the program. They're not looking at me crazy anymore for starting a program like that. Now they're asking for more cats. So that's an awesome program. I'm glad you brought that up, especially for folks with large industrial properties and farms that want some natural rodent control. Because a lot of times, no hatred to pest control, but if you have dogs or if you have other animals, sometimes whatever methods they're using to control rodents, I'd be worried that it's dangerous to my animals. So just getting some feral cats sometimes will solve the problem.
Every time we have another mouse in City Hall, I get closer and closer saying, we're getting a City Hall cat. Because we'll get those darn mice in here, and just because they love to live in the ivy on the side of the building, we figured out, and they find little ways to get in, and then they'll be, you'll find find droppings, and then we have to trap them, and then of course I have to remove the traps because none of the girls at City Hall want to touch the mouse trap. And so I'm like, we need to get a cat. Let's just get us the City Hall cat, and it'll roam around. We'll feed it. It'll during the day, and then at night it can do its thing.
Take notes from Home Depot. They've got their Home Depot cats that patrol.
I think that might have to happen. So I'm just saying, when the next mouse that comes in, we're just gonna get a cat.
Well, when you're ready to get a City Hall cat,
we know where to go.
You know where to go. Just come and find me.
Absolutely.
I like it. Okay, so coming up, February 25th is World Spay Day. Mm-hmm. So that's a good program for unincorporated Kern. Tell me a little bit about what, special, I guess you could say, or discount is being offered through this day.
Yeah, so Maya, absolutely, World Spay Day is an event that we participate in every way we can, and I'll kind of expand on that in a second. But we just want to. It's really we're doing so much spay neuter. We provided for the sterilization of about 750 animals last month.
Wow.
Probably about another 750 in December, and then somewhere around 675 in November. So we are spaying and neutering a lot of animals. So we want to make sure that the community knows that you can go to kerncountyanimalservices.org/spay neuter. That's kerncountyanimalservices.org/SPAYNEUTER. And I made sure that when you go to that page, there's a giant button right in the middle of the page. You click on it, make an appointment, and you can get an appointment to get your pet fixed. So that is always a resource that's available, not only for unincorporated residents, but for the folks here in Tehachapi as well. Yes, there's a pretty good chance that you might have to drive into Bakersfield. We have clinics. We just had a spay neuter clinic in Mojave. We're having one in Inyo Kern next month. So they're all throughout the county. It's a very large county, but those resources are available. Didn't want to take away from the fact that resources are always available, but yes, about 15 years ago, there was an organization who started World Spay Day, and it's just what it sounds like. It's just an event that's intended to bring attention to the need for spay and neuter. I guess the name World Spay Neuter Day doesn't sound as good as World Spay Day. But so we started participating in it in any way that we could about 8 years ago. And now our goal is usually to provide for the spaying and neutering of at least 100 animals. We just thought that was a nice round number. Mm-hmm. We usually set a goal. We want to provide for the spay and neuter of a minimum of 100 animals. And the reason why we do that is we just want to bring attention to it. It's needed. It's necessary. It's the only solution to the problem that we're in right now. So that's our goal, again, is to provide for the sterilization of at least 100 animals. We have about 140 appointments already. Wow. So I think we're going to hit that mark. But there's still some appointments left. So folks can sign up on our website, kerncountyanimalservices.org. You can go to the pet resources tab and go to spay and neuter, or you can just go to kerncountyanimalservices.org/spay neuter. Those World Spay Day appointments are still available. It's going to ask you to type in some information about yourself and then some information about your pet. Spoiler, you're going to need to know the weight of your animal, which seems like not many people do know. But we usually tell folks the same thing all the time. Do you have a scale in your bathroom? If you do, go weigh yourself. You don't have to tell the world, but weigh yourself and then get off and pick up your dog or cat, weigh yourself again. That should give you an idea about what your animal weighs. So there's some information that we need, but once you make the appointment, we'll be in touch with you and give you your drop-off time. And right now the cost is $20. So for a $20 fee, we'll provide for the sterilization of your animal.
Awesome. It's a great resource that again adds to the education, the exposure of the importance of doing these responsible pet owner things to help curb the overpopulation of dogs, cats, and beyond.
But if you own like a Great Pyrenees, you might need to go to the truck stop to get weighed because you ain't picking that thing up on the scale. I'm just letting you know right now.
Yeah. Okay. We'll look into that.
Yeah. A livestock scale.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll find one around here for sure.
Well, great. Nick, is there anything else going on with KCAS that we have not touched upon? I mean, obviously, your services and outreach is ongoing, but anything, coming up on the calendar that people should look out for?
We have World Spay Day. Like we talked about in April, we're going to be doing a foster. Well, I mean, we're trying to figure out what to name it, but and a lot of this is just information, just to watch our website and watch our social media pages when we start advertising it. But we're gonna, with kitten season right around the corner. If our listeners are unclear what kitten season means, kittens are more inclined to start to breed when the weather warms up. So right around April or May, we see a massive increase in the amount of cats and kittens that are coming into our care.
Yeah.
And so in order to prepare for that, we usually do sort of like a foster drive. We put about 1,500 kittens through foster care every year. That saves their lives. And every year around this time, we got to start getting new fosters. So right around April, we're going to have, I think we're calling it an open house. We're not quite sure, because we're going to call it an open house, and we're going to welcome folks into the both shelters. We operate 2 shelters in the county of Kern. Just invite folks in to ask questions about the foster program, volunteer program, how they can help, and try to get them signed up to be a foster parent. So that'll be in April. Watch our social media pages for that. And we just want to remind the listeners and viewers, if you own businesses or organizations, and you feel passionate about animals, and you'd like Animal Services to bring some adoptable pets out. I'm not trying to take any business away from the nonprofits here that have animals that are available for adoption, but you can always email us at animalservices@kerncounty.com. And we'd be happy to come up and bring some shelter pets out. And check us out at KernCountyAnimalServices.org. There's a lot of resources that are available for the residents here that can help them take care of their animals and help curb the overpopulation of domesticated animals in Kern County.
Yeah, absolutely. Corey, anything in
No,
closing?
just, I mean, on that note, next time that Nick comes, is he should bring some dogs.
Yeah.
Or cats in here in the studio. And then
Barn cats, that would be...
No, I want something I can cuddle with, as we're doing the show.
I can do that.
I mean, the problem is I would probably take it home. Like you said, you're gonna.
I'm not gonna acknowledge that,
Right.
But
Yeah,
if that happens,
You've got a new backyard now.
I know. Yeah. I don't know. It's that thing where you're trying to get the kids to the point where, like, okay, you need to help take care of it. So we started with goldfish, which so far I'm doing most of the work.
Oh, okay.
So once they understand the point of the fish, then we can go to the larger, more responsible animal.
You can't cuddle with a goldfish.
I know.
Or teach it tricks.
Yeah, no, I got close, actually. I tried, because it knows when I'm feeding it. It gets all excited. I was trying to see if it'll I could touch it, but so far it runs away.
So basically, if I deliver a dog to your backyard, it'll probably end up staying there.
At that point, my kids not too long ago in our neighborhood, all of a sudden, my ring cam goes off, and I look outside, and I open the door, and my 5-year-old's holding this dog, and goes, "It's a dog!" And I'm like, "Yeah, where'd you get that from?" "I was just running over here." And then so we put it in the backyard, and it was actually just a neighbor's just a few houses down. Once my wife posted to social media, next thing you know, the neighbor's like, "Oh yeah, that's
my
so
dog."
and so," and I was like, "Oh, thank you, it's right by here." But the kids are like, "It's a dog!" And they were all excited. So yeah, most likely it's going home with me. I'm just letting you know.
All right. Well, no, next time.
Yeah.
Next time Nick comes, Corey's getting a new dog.
Hope my wife's not listening. She's gonna kill me right now.
Well, this is all great information, and thanks again, Nick, for coming in and kind of refreshing us. If for anybody listening to the podcast for the first time, or maybe didn't catch Nick when he was on the last time about 2 years ago or so, talking all things animal services. So great again to be refreshed on all of the resources that are available here, and talk about some cool new programs.
Very, very happy and honored that you guys invited me back.
And thanks for the work you do. I mean, this is tough stuff. I mean, I'm sure the emotions are high and low, right? You've got great days at the shelter, and some days where it seems like you're never gonna get out of this, cycle of just more animals coming in. But then you have the days when a lot of them get to go find a new home. So I'm sure.
I've been in animal welfare for 20 years here in Kern County, like I said. And one of the real bright spots right now is that there are more community partners now, people that are kind of hand in hand trying to solve this problem than ever before. And a lot of those partners are here in Tehachapi, and some of them are beyond. And there's a loosely based organization that some of these organizations, ours included, have gotten together and started to pool resources and try to affect change together. Marley's Mutts being one of those organizations who's partnered. The city of Bakersfield has partnered with us. SOS Dog Rescue has partnered with us. Emma and Mal's Animal Sanctuary has partnered with us. All these organizations, and we're calling it the Kern Safe, SAFE, stands for Saving Animals from Euthanasia. And we're just trying to bring resources to communities that need it the most. So it's such a bright spot that there are so many organizations that are trying to work together right now to solve these problems. And if you need a bright spot before I come back another 2 years from now, that's it, is that there's a lot of organizations that are really working together right now to solve these problems.
Yeah, collaboratively, not just putting it on the government, so to speak. You need to fix
Working
this.
together.
Like collaboratively is the way
together.
to go. So, yeah, well, that sounds awesome. And again, thanks for what you do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, things are looking up for our furry friends. Yeah. Thanks again, both of you guys, for joining us today. If anybody is listening and has a question for Nick or anything animal services related or Tehachapi related, you can email us media@tehachapicityhall.com, and we'll be sure to direct that to the right place. You can also DM us on social media at City of Tehachapi, and we will also get those questions or comments answered. Thanks again for tuning in, and we hope to catch you back here next time on Tehachapod.